Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show with Grandpa Brian and Lucky Stone. Ooh, let's see how we can do this. Tonight's show: deprogram subconscious healing and integrating programming, helping higher spiritual evolution, and that's the subject. And we're going to discuss things. And if you have any comments or questions, just put it in the chat. If you're watching later, put it into the comments. Honestly, I'm open to all the comments, to what you have to say. I might not understand your comments, so we just might have a little conversation through the comments section. But that's we're here to learn and grow, and that's what it's all about. Whew. How you been, Grandpa Brian? How's your week been?
Uh, Busy. It was kind of cooler through the week, but yesterday and today we've been in the mid 60s. It's just absolutely beautiful outside.
Yeah, yeah. We had a snowstorm last Sunday into Monday, and it was one of those big ones where we expected maybe a foot. We got about two, and it's not so much the snow as it's much. We have about in my front yard. It has about 4.5 feet of snow, just without the snow pile, and with the snow, all the snow piles are about 6 feet tall. All of our neighbors, and it's not so much the snow; it's just where to put it all, and it's been melting, and then it gets warm during the day and cold at night, so it's been melting. Our street is
Hmm.
just rutted and everything, and I am so happy that my wife and I bought four-wheel drive vehicles because through the summer it doesn't mean anything, but this winter, without those, because we've had neighbors who just park at the end of the street and says, "Hey, we give up." It's getting better now since it was 50 degrees today, so everything's pretty clear right now. But it's interesting. These snowstorms at the end of the season, they can be quite bothersome.
Yes, they can be. I think, like I said, it was in the 60s today, but by tomorrow night we're going to be having snow and snow into Monday.
Yeah, we're
But
gonna get a little snow next tomorrow too.
but it's going to warm up, and then I'm dreading the week after because they're talking in a 5 day period us getting about 5.5, 6 inches of rain.
Oh yeah, oh the rain and on yeah. Well, oof, that's quite something. Yeah, the rain and it just end of the season. Okay. Thank you, Scotty Boy, for coming. Thank you, Truthway Victor. Thank you, Loretta Enigma. Thank you, Millie. Um, Lori Elderkin. Thank you so much for coming, Lori Elderkin. Thank you, Chloe. Um, I think I covered everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. Um, we're just having a nice little open discussion and discussing. You brought up the subject of deprogramming the subconscious and healing and integrating programming and helping higher spiritual evolution. So you brought this subject up. What do you think about this?
Uh,
I had some notes and I misplaced them.
oh, the programming that I'm talking about breaking is the young program. We're programmed in religion. We were programmed to
Uh-huh.
think and act a certain way. You got to think school tries to teach you to think one way. They don't teach any other way. So it's just one way. This is how you solve the problem. Boom, 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 boom. And they just teach you and they keep driving it. So, those are the types of programmings that we need to break. But it's important that you don't forget about them either,
Hmm.
because, that is things that you learned and you don't want to basically lose all that you learned, even if it's just mindless programming. Like the religion aspect. Would I be where I am today if I didn't have that young religious programming? And I feel the same way about Wayne. You know, when he says that he wasted 50 years of his life in Christianity, I look at it differently. If he didn't waste some 50 years in Christianity, would he be where he's at right now?
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of the mistakes, or I'd say mistakes isn't a good word. The lessons we have in our life. I mean, honestly, when you take them and you learn from them and you grow from them and you take it, it's like a stone. It's a stone in the wall. It's a stone in the road. You can either make it an obstacle or step over it using a stepping stone. That's the kind of thing. And the size of the stone, it might appear bigger than it really is, but as long as you use it in the right way, it's not an obstacle. It's an opportunity. That's the word. Um, that's it. The things we did in the past, we might look at them now as mistakes, but again, we learn and grew from them. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are. So yeah, I agree with you. You don't forget about them, but remember them because we were, you know, we're not competing with anyone but our old self, and even then, it's just, working from our way forward, trying to find a way forward from where we were previously.
Yeah. And, there's other programmings too, like, you know, basically racism is programming. Uh, you know, when you come from a broken home and there's violence in that home, there's programming right there too, because a lot of younger males see the dad be physical, so they think that's the norm. So when they get older, they're physical. So you see how that programming works.
Hmm.
A good example, I think, if you ever seen that movie American History X, which is basically about racism, and then when it goes back to when he first learned about it, his dad was a fireman. He was explaining that it wasn't right that they were hiring African Americans over white people just to meet a quota.
Hmm.
And then it grew from there because his dad was actually killed fighting a fire by a black person, and then that really set it off to. And then once he learned what the Aryan was all about, he regretted everything that he did, and he looked back and you see where all the programming started. So he actually healed himself from that programming because he realized the ways of racism was wrong.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I have seen the movie. I also saw there was an African American Baptist minister who he has a pride thing where he actually converts Ku Klux Klan members. He has a whole pile of their robes where the old Ku Klux Klan members will introduce him to other Ku Klux Klan members and just have a discussion. And it's one of those things where once you meet somebody who they really are, it's really hard to be a racist, because again, you're built upon what you're told. You're built upon the lessons of your parents, and your parents, they're trusted. That the Bible itself says, honor your mother and father. So yeah, racism is built upon us, but again, without that, making those situations going forward, you can spread and make a better world. The racism, by growing out of the racism, we can help make a better world. But well, it's a tough, tough situation. The current world we live in right now is kind of tough because a lot of the political correctness makes it worse for the other races because us white people will go above and beyond where we'll find offense where offense isn't taken. And let it's open conversation kind of helps a lot with just I work with all kinds of races, and it's one of those things where you don't see it because we're coworkers, But then you see in the news all this horrible racism and and the conflict going on, and you think, well, that's not the world I live in. But I don't know. It is a situation, and I lost my train of thought. But again,
Yeah.
it is you grow up on it. That's it.
Yeah. I think two of the biggest programs that will have to break and heal from would be uh, worthiness and self doubt.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, how many people are programmed when they're being told almost their whole life, you're never going to amount to nothing, you're worthless.
Oh yeah.
That puts doubt into someone's mind. I'm sure there's been times, I know there's been times in my life where people tried to put doubts in my mind
Mhm.
or tell me that I'm not worthy, especially religious people. They'll flat say, you're a sinner, you're not worthy of being saved, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you really don't even know who I am, and you're judging me like that. So, but, if you keep hearing that over and over and over and over again, a lot of people, they don't think they're worthy. They have that self doubt. The other program that's going to be hard to break is the fear. I mean, we're taught fear from a young age.
Yeah. In so many levels. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, look at the fear that they're putting out now. I mean, you got a war going on over in Ukraine. They started bombing Iran today.
Hmm.
I mean, there's fear going on. Look what's going on in Mexico too, with the cartels and all the violence going on down there. The fear is getting fed everywhere right now through the news.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. It's coming on so many levels. Um, and you're right. It's the the powers that be like it that way. Although they poo poo it and they switch it around, but that's what they enjoy. They want us to be arguing with each other and fighting each other and trying to find different sides of a situation where honestly there should be no side.
But honestly, there shouldn't be no situation.
You're right.
That they created the situation that's causing the trauma, and that's what it all boils down to. It's all trauma because they feed off of the trauma.
Yes, and they love it. They love every second of it. They love all the strife and the struggle. And you're right. They come up with the solutions to the problems they create. And they won't admit to that. Of course, they say, well, we're fixing it, but again, they're fixing something that they brought about.
Yeah, I mean, the more I dig deeper into, you know, my life now and how I've grown and where I'm wanting to go and all the obstacles that are in my way. I mean, I thought I was doing fine. Then all of a sudden it's like, wow, now I start realizing, man, there's a lot of obstacles in front of me. There's a lot of programming that I not only need to break, but heal from, because that's going to be important when you cross over. I mean, you're going to be, you don't want to carry a baggage with you. And
Yeah,
and a lot of that programming is subconscious stuff. So that actually stays with you more than a lot of your conscious thought does when you cross over.
you're right. You're right. The subconscious thing is kind of insidious. It kind of gets in behind things, and we tend less to take. We don't pay attention to subconscious stuff, but again, it comes out in different ways in conscious, and whew, that is the truth. I guess. I guess to stop hiding from it. That's what we need to learn.
Right. And face that you have these programs that need it. And it's just like karma too, karma programs. That's all I think tied together. because, you have karma you need to get rid of, and just like there's programming that you need to get rid of. You got to work through both of these and heal that and yourself from those. When I hear people say that, I've gotten this high, I mean, how much really work, how deep have you really tried to dive into, you know, what you actually really need to heal inside you before you leave here?
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's a lot. I mean, I know more people fixate on healing from emotional things that's happened, but they don't. No one's ever really talked about, you know. I'm sure there has been, but karmic cycles, karmic debt, and how to heal those, or the programming. I've heard a lot of people talk. This matrix. You're programmed, but I've never really heard someone talk about how to try to escape that. How do you break that programming? They just always point it out, but never really try to lead people down a path. Well, this is something you need to break and heal from. I'm still trying to figure out how to, break and heal from it. It's a learning process for me, but just having that thought that that is there and it needs to be broken and healed. Now it's not only in my subconscious, but it's in my conscious thoughts right now.
So you believe you're carrying karma?
I know I've gotten rid of a lot of karmic debt in this lifetime. That was actually told to me in a message. Whether it's true or not, because of better things that was said, and knowing that the other side's a trap. Basically, the message said, I got rid of all my karmic debt. I'm doing this, that, and the other, and there's a banquet waiting for me on the other side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To me, they were already laying. I just figured this out there at night when I was talking to Trina. They were laying the foundation already for me to fall into the trap.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. That's what they want. They want you in the trap. So, of course, they're going to leave the foundation. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, yes.
And we talked about some other things that I'll have to get the okay from Trina first before I talk about it. But it was actually some really interesting things that she was talking about the other side that I just can't get into right now. But if I can get the okay from her, I'll let everybody know what's going on.
Right. So, generally, how would you help someone else get rid of their karmic debt? What kinds of things could they do?
Well, I mean, I physically can't help someone get rid of karmic debt. That's just something that they have to do on their own. First thing to do is get in and talk to your guides, meditate on it, find out about these karmic debts, find out about karmic cycles with people, because that's a lot of it too, having these relationships over and over again with a person that you need to work something out. Like me and my mom, it's like our fourth life together, and every time we butted heads. And we butted heads in this lifetime. But then once I figured that out, that this is a karmic cycle, I don't allow her to, push my buttons or want to try to butt heads with me. I try to just defuse the situation. So that's right there breaking a karmic cycle. I don't know if it was a bloodline cycle or a karmic cycle in the bloodline, but my dad was violent when, we were young. Uh, Forgave him, but the one thing, out of 6 boys, not one of us was violent.
Hmm. Hmm.
So either we broke a karmic bloodline cycle, or we just maybe broke a cycle for my dad and his karma line, but not by not continuing the cycle.
Yeah, I can understand that. That is a weird situation with people of our generation. That a lot of the males that I know, friends who had, let's say, aggressive fathers, to put it, aggressive fathers, they end up being very gentle fathers to their own children. And it's something I've noticed, and it really was kind of strange where a good deal of of the boys I grew up with grew up to be men who were so uh, different than their fathers, much more caring, compassionate. And I'm wondering if that's something we got in the Generation X, something clicked in to cause us to be less of a violent, but or is it just happen to be the people that I hang around with just happen to be the more compassionate individuals? I'm not sure, but it is something different that a lot of the boys who had very aggressive fathers turned out to be very calm, compassionate fathers themselves. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that may have with, where we were entering into the age of Aquarius, that people were brought back to break maybe bloodline cycles or karmic cycles within a family. Just like you said, they seen the violence, but they weren't programmed by it. Or others, because they see it continuously, they're programmed by it.
Yeah, that is very, 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 yeah, it just all this information because when my grandfather passed away, a lot of a lot of stuff came out about my grandfather, and he was not the most stand-up kind of guy, and he was very adamant that his children would be better. And my father always said that I was nothing like my father, but he was just like my grandfather, just a different way. And then I always worried about that myself. But again, my father was afraid of his father. My father was afraid of my grandfather. I was afraid of my father. Even now, I'm intimidated of my own father when he's decrepit. He's a decrepit individual. But for my son can say, come tell me anything, and that's what I'm proud of. I may not be the best father, but at least I know that he can talk to me, and there's no fear between us. But again, it was a long line of father to son were afraid of their fathers. Although my grandfather, his father died when he was very young, so he never had that fatherly. There's a lot into this. There's a lot to unpack with that. But again,
Yeah.
it all comes down to can we be, without blaming our parents, can we try to be better than our parents? And there's a balance there where we're going to be better than our parents. And is that part of the karmic, was it repairing the karmic debt, which is not blaming those who raised us, but to try to be better for ourselves and be better to our own next generation? Is that part of it, or is that just one of the one of the many things we have to do?
Well, when I really first started finding out about what religion was all about, and actually what the Catholic Church was all about, uh, I was angry at my mom. I was pissed that she pushed Catholicism on me from my birth.
Mhm.
But then after about 2 days, I realized it was all programming.
Mhm.
It was her mom that had her baptized and made her Catholic. It was her mom's mom, you know what I'm saying? It was going down the line. So you have all this generational programming all the way up to now. And like with my grandson, my daughter refused because both grandmas are Catholic and they wanted him baptized as a baby. And she's like, nope, it ain't happening. We're letting him choose his own way. It's church, and later when he gets older, he wants to be baptized. That is his choice. But as far as having something forced onto him, no, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I did all that. I did the Sunday school, the church, and the first communion and confirmation, and all the steps to get through it.
So, did you go to a Catholic school?
No, no. I went to a regular public school, but every
So,
Sunday, yeah, I did go to Sunday school.
oh, because we had a thing that was called CCD.
Yeah,
That was
that's it.
Monday nights. So you go to church on Sunday, and then Monday nights you had CCD.
Ours was randomly, depending on your age, either Friday or any day. Saturday was like a bunch of different classes, and then Sunday was around, the because it was more than one um, church thing. You know, uh, it was like, was it? If I can remember correctly, there was 7:15, 8:30, 9:45, 11 o'clock, and then 1 o'clock. I think that's what the church had. Um, and it was funny that each of the church, what the hell? I'm losing the word, but each one of the sessions um, was a little different. I mean, the one at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, lots of singing. The ones in the morning was a lot of speaking and a lot of reciting, um, and for me, as a small child, I couldn't go to church. My parents went to church, and I went to I sat with the nuns, and then depending on what happens, I would be with the kids. A lot of kids were upset because I didn't have to go to the church when they had to go to church and go to Sunday school. Why he just go to Sunday school? Why does he can't go to church? And the nuns would, oh no, we have church in here, and he has it much difficult. And the nuns absolutely were the meanest, nastiest nuns to the other kids, but to me were the nicest. And it was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. They loved me, they adored me, but mostly because I spoke the truth, but was respectful, and it was something that they appreciated. It was a weird situation. My childhood was a really weird situation. Um, but I do remember going to Sunday school, and each of the different Sunday schools, the teachers were a dichotomy of, you either had a nun or you had a parent, or it was interesting. Mr. McLeod was a very gruff, no nonsense kind of guy, but he's had some of the greatest classes. Um, you know, it was interesting. Sunday school was probably the most fun I ever had as a kid because some of the instructors were very straight out. This is what's going to happen. Other times you had a nun, which was much more difficult, and the nun would say things like, "We got to get rid of the bad apples, and one bad apple will ruin the bunch." And they would just the nun classes, you didn't mess in. If you messed up, you go off to another, and then of course, by not attending that class, you had to prove that you knew that it was a lot of work. But for me, I never had a problem with the nuns at all. But again, it was regimented. There was some of the classes were very tough. Other times, it was all about the lesson and not about, performing. Other times it was all about performing. But, I knew, when I went to be confirmed, you had to know all the different prayers and backwards and forwards, the Apostles' Creed and stuff like that. and I knew it by heart. And the kids were crying because the nun was so aggressive. And I come in and she goes, I know you don't worry. We'll just talk. How's your grandfather? How are your parents? And it was, 15, 20 minutes, even half an hour. I was talking and I come out and she's, what's she doing? How bad it was. And I'm like, I don't know. She didn't ask me much, but the other kids are crying when they left. It was an interesting situation. Um, it was tough for me because some of the bullies used to bug me because why the nuns treat you so well and not us? And I'm like, I think because I do what I'm supposed to and don't talk back. But
Yeah.
but it is again. That's the thing. Sometimes they like the system. They like everyone to fall into place, and I talk the talk and walk the walk, and But again, when I was younger, the priest didn't want anything to do with me because I would say things that children shouldn't know. But that was back then.
Yeah. And the a lot of the programming is probably basically basic programming, like I said, from like school and adults. And what I mean by integrating is once you see and recognize that that was programming that they were trying to do, what did you learn from that now that you know that it's programming? So look back on it. Okay, what I learned from that programming, and then get rid of the program, but integrate what you learned from that program. I think that's going to be very important for yourself because you need to go with as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah, it is interesting. I was watching an interview with um, a homosexual, a gay, young 20s, 30s kind of guy, and he was deep in the church. Spent his whole life in the church, and then when he got to late teens, early 20s, the church said, "We don't like your kind in here." And he's like, "What kind is that?" Because he was in the closet at the time. He wasn't even sure himself. He was just he was Christian, and he wasn't out yet. But um, it was a funniest thing. And he says, we don't like your kind, with Jesus' teachings. And he would say things like, Jesus was with the lowest common denominator. He was about love and about compassion. He was with the prostitutes and the lepers and and the criminals. And Jesus was with everyone. Everyone was forgiven. I'm just teaching the words of Jesus. And that's when he realized he doesn't fit in religion. He can still love Jesus and respect Jesus and just walk away religion, not blaming anyone, just realizing I don't fit. And it was one of the things where it was a very quick thing and it blew my mind. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. What we need is all we need is you said it yourself. We are so focused on Jesus' sacrifice for our sins. We forget about Jesus forgiving us for putting him on the cross. And that's what it's all about. All of his lessons were about just being kind, not being selfish. And it was everything. It's just about being kind and being good and, not being selfish and treating each other with respect and loving each other. And, loving yourself, treating yourself with respect, loving others. This is all it is. But the church adds so much garbage on it and it puts it on this place that it just loses the whole message. And is that all it is? Was Jesus truly freeing us by not having the baggage, but that's what the church has on it. But the message is still there. You just have to find it, which is easy to find. It's right there.
Yeah. Well, there again, you're basically programmed by the church to believe something that was written by man. We all know it whatever language it started out in, it got translated to Greek and then Latin, then English. You know, a lot of stuff gets lost. Translations
Hmm. Hmm.
don't mean the same with other words.
So let's just say we want to help people deprogramming. We want to help people. I mean, it's about finding those obstacles that we present in our lives and taking them and trying to turn them into the opportunities. Millie was talking about romancing the shadow or working with the shadow self, and it's about facing it. It's about facing the dark parts of ourselves and working our way through it.
well, you want to heal your shadow self. The thing is, you never want it to go away. You actually want it to actually walk with you instead of being a part of you. You know, there's a difference, you know, the shadow walking beside you or being attached to you. So that's where you got to heal that to where it's not attached to you, but it's still there. It's walking beside you.
Okay.
You know, I'm just trying to get people to open their mind to think, okay, what have I been programmed with that my beliefs have changed now? And look at that programming and then discern, do I need to heal that, or what did I learn from that? And then I can just integrate what I learned from it and just get rid of that programming altogether.
So you want people to be aware of the program that's influencing them.
Correct. You know, you there's a lot that you don't think that you've been programmed, but you have. That's why I was trying to get people to look at things from a different perspective. Because, you know, when you start looking at things from a different perspective, you're not looking at it from the same basically program thought process that you were from kids to up till now.
So here's a little thing that I've been thinking about, I keep running into, where people who are on the path, let's just say the path where they are determined that they are awake now, sometimes their awakening process puts them in a place where they start the programming that they had from the past subconsciously influences what they are right now, and they don't understand what they're doing is just back to programming again.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to be aware of when you what they think is non-judgment, that they're trying to help others, but what they're really doing is just repeating the same thing with a different mask. So you're right. So you have to be aware of your programming in order to grow from it. I'm not sure. Hmm. That's the thing. And that's another when somebody criticizes you or comments, if it hurts, usually that means something's there that you have to address. When words hurt, there's something there. If say something that doesn't affect it, if someone says something that has no basis, that honestly is easier to make it go away than you'll forget about it. Um, while something they say something that you believe that's not true. Why would they say that? Unfortunately, you have to go in yourself and go, okay, that hurts my feelings. I know it's not true, but what in that is triggering me? And then you have to work on that because something is in there, and it might not be related to the words, but the feeling it might be in there. That's that old programming is coming out in a different uh, route. I don't know. Maybe. Just thinking my way around this.
You know, like when we were talking about last week, when I was talking about, calling back all your spirit fractals, all the aspects of you, I realized with this that when you're deprogramming, you're pulling all the aspects of you that's in this lifetime right now, because you have different aspects of you. And what you're doing, you're starting to pull all of them together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. Me and Trina was talking the other night, and one thing I never even thought about, not going into the tunnel of light. Your Akashic records. So we were talking. I'm wondering if I know I'm getting ready to pass away, if I can astro project and basically grab all my Akashic records, knowing that I'm going to be leaving soon, so I can take all that information with me when I cross over. Because those are your Akashic records. So if you didn't retrieve them and you moved on, then there's still a fingerprint in the matrix that you actually were in the matrix.
So you want to erase all traces of you in the matrix?
Yep, basically.
But you also mentioned that you might want to come back from the outside to help those come out of the matrix.
Yeah, but you're still working outside the construct. You're not trapped in here, because you can leave at any time and not be bound by the limitations of where you can go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It is interesting.
Yeah, it's just some crazy stuff that runs through my head sometimes through the week, when you're just, in that lucid state, and then bam, then thoughts start going through your head.
Yeah, and that is the thing in meditation, is so much comes out, and it is interesting. It's a lot to process. And sometimes it comes out in different ways. I mean, dreams go crazy sometimes. But
Yeah, because that's how I come up with a lot of these shows, is because, just get into that lucid state, and then a thought comes in. It's like, all right, where could I go with that thought right there?
right. Well, I've been watching some different things, and someone was mentioning that fractals. Why focus on the fractals? Why can't you just say we're a part of the whole? But I don't see fractals as not. That was something that really confused me. That someone was saying that, why focus on the fractals and all the different parts of ourselves? Why not focus on the whole? Because all is all. And it just, I didn't know what to do with that, because it's just one of those things where um, it didn't make any sense to me. Let's just say that. And I was trying to because I want to understand. When someone says something, I want to understand where they're coming from. But it just, it came to a point where I guess that's the point, is that sometimes information comes to you and you have to put it aside, because I don't understand this. Maybe I'll understand it later. I don't know. It was one of the things where I believe fractals are like a tree, where fractals will be like at the buds in the tree, and they're everywhere. They're still part of me, but I need to be aware of them to know where they are, so they can blossom and I can blossom and grow. So, sometimes there are parts of us that are everywhere. And although they're everywhere, we don't know exactly where they are. We have to be aware of them so we can, have all of ourselves. Like, so we can take all parts of ourselves. Yeah, it goes back to that. Like you said, you have to be aware of all traces of yourself to be part of the whole. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the point of calling back all your fractals, you're being aware of them so you can have complete control of them. Hmm. There's a lot to
Uh,
this. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
I don't know about control as integrating,
Mhm.
merging with one another.
Yeah, how can it become part of the whole unless you be aware of it so you can integrating part of the whole? It's not lost, it's just away. And you want to become aware of it so it can be reintegrated in the whole so you can
Hmm.
take all trace of it. Yeah, I'm getting more and more. And I think this is one of, I think sometimes, I guess I'll have to say it, the 3D. I don't like using 3D, 4D, 5D. I think there's more to it, but that's just me. It's one of those things with terms that kind of confuse and it labels. I don't like labels, but again, it just might be that the labels where what we call fractals and what they see as fractals might be two different things. And we just need to be happy with their version and us with our version, and still neither of us are wrong, neither of us are right. It's just right for us, need to move forward. And that's what it has to be. But that's the thing, that's about open communication. That's it. It's about open. Just because we disagree with someone's opinion or their definition doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that we have a different one, and it's okay for either of us to function on our own paths.
Well, I'm a firm believer everybody has their own truth, and everybody's truth is not the same.
Yeah, great. And people will say, well, truth is eternal, truth is truth. But yes, at 100%, truth is truth, truth is eternal. But our perspectives change. Just because we see something as true from here might not be true from there. So we have to be happy with where we are right now and let them live over there and go on our lives. You're right. Exactly. We all have our own perspectives. And yes, truth is 100, everything, truth is truth. That's fine. Truth is eternal. That's good. But perspective does change where you're sitting. So we just have to be okay. This is where I'm sitting. This is my life path. That's your life path over there. They're both right. They're both good. Oh, do you need some help? I'm willing to help. If you don't need any help, that's fine. You continue on your path. When you need help, we'll work together. But again, yeah, right. I cannot put someone on the right path, but I can help guide someone and say, okay, here's the map that I see from my perspective, and maybe we can help you find the map from your perspective.
My philosophy is I can only plant a seed. It's up to someone else to let it grow.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly. We can hand them the seed, but it's their job to plant it and take care of it to grow. That's great.
Hmm.
That's it. We cannot fertilize it, we cannot water it, we cannot plant it. It's there, but we can still give them the seed for them to do what they need. And we can help tell them what the right nutrients are for that seed. But again, it's their job to use it or not use it and find something better. Maybe they can find a better way. But again, we can, we're all on this different path, but again, all the paths go to the same destination, hopefully.
Hmm. Yep. And, would life be boring if everybody was on the same path? Everybody thought the same way? Life would be boring.
Well, I think we wouldn't be here because there'd be no necessary if we were all had the exact same path, the exact same perspective. There would no reason. There wouldn't be reason for life.
Right.
Um, hmm, that's it. I think that's the whole thing is that we have to be comfortable that things are different from different people's points of view, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because, I live by the philosophy too. I don't judge because I don't want someone judging me on my life path. So I don't judge others that, you know, like Trina says, you do you, boo. If that's your life path and what you want to do, that's all on you. I'm not going to judge you for it because there's something in that path that you need to learn.
Yes, that's it. That's it. It's all. It might even not be learned as much as experience, because in the experience we grow from it. I mean, some people don't like the word learn because we all know everything on the other side anyway. So why bother learning? Blah blah blah. The point is, we want to experience it. That's it. We want to experience life.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And
Yeah.
I try not to give advice either. Or, like someone says, well, which way should I go? What should I do? That's on you. I can't, because if you give them advice to do something, or they ask, what should I do? And you tell them, well, you should do this, and they do that, that might be taking them off a path that they were a different path than what they should have actually been on. So I try not to. I watch carefully what I say to someone when they ask me for advice. Usually, I try to ask them questions and get them to figure it out instead of me actually telling them.
Yeah, that is a very interesting idea, because a lot of people, when they come for you for advice, normally that's advice that they gave to someone else in the past. And I've been this run into me so many times where I've seen somebody giving advice to someone else when I think to myself, they need that advice, but they're not listening to themselves. They're fully well to give the advice to everyone else, but don't ever integrate in their own life. But that's kind of where I have to step in and bring in their own words back on themselves in a kind, compassionate, so they're aware of them, without telling them, you, what's wrong with you? Why would you give advice to someone else that you won't take? Instead, you say, hmm, about this situation, I remember something about along the lines of, and they might remember, oh yeah, I gave someone that similar advice, and you help them integrate their own advice into their own lives. Illuminate it. You know, put a light in the corners that they're not paying attention to. But again, you're right. We can't give anyone advice for their own lives, but if people come into our lives that need our advice, it might be the advice that we need to give to ourselves and say, okay, this situation I need to be aware of, that this person is coming to me with this situation. What can I learn from myself to improve myself with it? And unfortunately, it might be so convoluted that the, them coming in our lives might be an experience that we might need, and to grow from. But it's life.
Hey,
That's the joy about it.
yeah, that is true. I mean, there are certain things I'll give uh, advice on, like if someone was to come up and ask, what do you do when you do Reiki? How do you move about the energy? You know, advice like that, I don't mind giving, but someone wants me to. I think now there might be people that are programmed from a young age to have other people solve their problems for them, because they were always being told what to do, always going to their parents or friends for advice. So they got dependent on not solving the problem for themselves, but actually having someone else solve it for them because of how they grew up. I just never even thought about that until just now when we were talking about this. That could be a program too for some people that you would need to break.
Yeah, that's a tough one to break. And unfortunately, people of like us with all the answers are part of the problem, where we can offer great advice, great information, but unless they experience that information for themselves, it can be wasted.
Yeah, I had a friend that lived in another state. We'd talk through Messenger. Uh, Wanted me to ask some questions on my pendulum. So I did, not thinking nothing of. Well, then the next week comes, she wanted to ask more questions. So I did, and I was like, I tell you what, I'm going to send you a pendulum and I will teach you over the phone how to use the pendulum. A couple of weeks go by, and I asked, did you get your pendulum? She's like, well, I never went to the mailbox and checked. Could you ask your pendulum? I was like, no, I was willing to teach you, give you a tool and teach you how to use it, but you're being lazy wanting someone else to do the work for you.
Yeah, that is. I've experienced the exact same thing. Um, and I used to give readings. I used to charge $45 a session, half an hour, and they would come to me every week or 2 weeks with the same questions and the same advice. And I'm just like, and my, because I use cards. Cards were, I don't think the message in the cards is just there. I mean, the cards are a tool. I am the reader, but it's the cards are for the show. I read cards. Cards are for the show. Um, but after 5 sessions, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it's just why, you do great advice. I'm like, no, I don't. This is the same exact advice I've given 4 or 5 different times in different ways. I am stealing money from you. Oh, no, no, no. But you can do another reading. I'm like, no, no more. If you're not growing from my advice and you can't use it, you're paying me to give you the exact same advice 4 or 5 times. I I can't do that in all good consciousness. This isn't a good, and they were very upset, and they wrote a bad. This was back years ago. They gave me a bad review and everything, and I just don't care. Like I explained it, and I said I'm not going to repeat the same advice over and over again. It's just not fair to you or to the spirits. I'm not wasting the spirits' time. I'm not going to waste your time. We're done. Done. And I felt much better. That was a weight off my shoulders where it's good to get and honestly, I could have done it, made, 45, $50 every couple of weeks. Great. Have a lot of fun. Free money. Same advice over and do my cards. Yep. Here's the advice again. You can't use it. Great. But again, I couldn't live with myself being that kind of person. But they could because they just wouldn't do anything with it. But they
Yeah.
loved the advice. They loved everything about it every time. And I was phrasing it a little bit different way, but it was the same thing every time because I kept notes. That's another thing. I always keep notes. And I was looking. I didn't know. The third time, I realized this is a little different. And I realized no, it is not different. It's just phrased. It's the same thing over and over again. They're not growing, and they know. They know this is great advice. I need to use this. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, that's the way it was with Isby. I did 5 readings for him in 5 weeks, and there was 3 cards that came up all 5 weeks.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm like, you're not getting it. You need to get it. This is a toxic situation. You need to get out. And he just would not listen.
Hmm.
But I never gave up on him. I kept, come on, you need to get out. Well, and kept on him, kept on him, kept on him.
Yeah.
And that
Sometimes. Yeah.
and that was the one thing he did come through Teresa and wanted to thank me that I never gave up on him and that he's part of my team now. So,
Mm.
and that was one thing, even though he just didn't get it, I still never gave up on him and didn't never stop trying. And he realized that when he crossed over that I never did give up on him. I
Hmm.
always kept trying with him.
Yeah. It was a lot of tough situations with him. There was so many little things with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to hang out with him 2 different weekends. I had a blast with him.
Hmm. Very interesting. Poor Robert, all of his, so many people,
Yeah.
Milky Way messengers, and that was a big thing. That was get up, that was a lot to that. And then Isby, he was doing readings with literally book readings, but the Giants with Isby, that was a lot of fun. Um,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Yeah, I miss
just
that little guy, and he was little. I'm talking. He's probably 5'3", 5'4".
interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never knew that. I did, yeah.
yeah, good guy. Really, really good guy.
Yeah.
I hope people got something out of the show tonight. Learn to start recognizing program and how to go about healing it or integrating it. You know, I hope what we talked about just helped.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, the message is out there, and how they use it, it might take time. That's the good thing about this kind of thing is that I really think that putting this out on YouTube, whether it get viewed or not, the right people are going to see it at the right time, and that's part of what I go with. Because I turn each one of these things into multiple shorts, and if one of those shorts triggers someone, or they can watch the whole thing, thing later, and that's my new idea, is that turning this long hour-long show into few little shorts that might, yeah, the most complicated thing is watching it again and going, oh, I missed that information, I got to write this down, and then whatever you do with it as you wish. That's the thing, is if anyone has anything to say in the comments later, um, I'm open. It doesn't matter. It's all good. I'm going to read it and try to do something with it. Try to understand. If I don't understand it, rephrase it again. Rephrase it. Don't say the same thing over again, because if I didn't get it, you say the same thing over again, I'm not going to get it. But if you rephrase it, maybe I'll understand where you're coming from. Because a lot of times we speak from our perspective, and I'm trying to read from my perspective, and I might not get the same message that you're trying to convey. So turn the words around, or rephrase it. It'll be cool. So I really do want to understand. I'm not going to pass anyone else. Oh, forget it. I don't understand. Forget it. No, I want to understand what you're trying to pass on. And if I don't understand, I want to get into it. And I might read it again later and go, okay, what am I getting with this?
Hmm.
So I don't know. You have anything to sum up this? Because we've gone different places, and I think it's pretty good. But
Just realize that there's been a lot of programming in your life, and use your discernment. You know, what is programming and what is your thought, because maybe some of it you think is programming isn't programming, and something that you don't think is programming that is actually programming. Just use your discernment, meditate on it, see what you need to heal, what you need to integrate. And like I said, when you're integrating it, you're bringing different aspects of yourself back into you. So that's about it.
yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's the thing, is that you have to be comfortable in your own skin. Learn to listen to yourself. I think that's the key, is to listen to yourself. And if something is troubling, sometimes you just gotta listen to it and just, okay, where is this coming from, and why do I feel this way? And it just might be pulling threads on a sweater, and you're unraveling it, and you might have to fix it later. But again, get in there. Try to understand yourself, because we can't fix anyone else, but we can surely fix ourselves by just listening to the little voice inside ourselves.
Yeah. I think you'll be a little happier.
Mm, true, and that's the key. Try to be happy as much as possible, and if you're not happy, try to figure out maybe why, and try to find a way. I mean, some people are happy in their misery, but that's them. We don't have to be that way. We can still listen to them with compassion and let them be happy with their misery, but still be there when they're ready to step out of that.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Scotty Boy. Thank you, Loretta Enigma. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Millie. Oh, so many people were here. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all. Just go out, have joy, spread joy wherever you can. And if you don't agree with somebody, that's okay.
Yep.
Keep going. You can still listen to people and not agree with them. That's part of life. Okay, everyone.
Yep.
What's next?